I'm going to tell you a story about Ruga the Sleeping Giant. This story begins long before men wrote words, back before time, as we know time. It was over the ocean in a land of great snow-capped mountains. In the village of Ligor, there was 5 families. There was a grandpa and a grandma, and their 4 children and their families. Altogether, there were 24 people. That may not sound like very many people for a village, but this one was much different than what we think of as a village. It was inside a cave. The people in that time had to live in caves because there were dinosaurs, and some of the dinosaurs ate people if they could catch them, especially the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And some big birds would swoop down and catch little children and take them away if they could find one. This cave was one of the best in the whole valley. The opening was very small. In fact, the parents had to crawl through it. This was good because the large animals couldn't get in. Inside, they rolled a stone across the opening to keep out the smaller animals and snakes. Inside the cave, it opened up into a very large room. There was a hole that went up through the top to the outside, and the sunlight could shine down and light the cave and make it warm. When they made a fire, the smoke went up and out the hole. Then there were several small caves that went off from the big cave, so it was very comfortable for all of the people. There was a young boy that lived in this village, and he loved rocks. From the time he was very small, his father would take him fishing with him, and he would pick up pretty rocks along the stream and bring them back home. He especially liked the yellow ones that were quite soft. He could smash them flat with other harder stones and make all kinds of pretty things with them. But he liked lots of other pretty stones too, and he had by now quite a pile in his part of their small cave, inside the large cave. Because he liked rocks so much, his parents had named him Ruga, which meant stone. Ruga had just turned 8 years old, and his father said, "Ruga, you are one of the best fishermen in our village. It is time for you to learn how to hunt." Ruga was so excited, he had wanted to go hunting with the men for a long time, but he was always told it was too dangerous. 2 of his uncles had been eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex the year before on a hunt. That mean monster was 20 feet high and big as 2 elephants. It had a big mouthful of 6-inch long teeth and a huge tail. He remembered how sad everyone was, and he had told his daddy that someday he would find a way to get rid of all the dinosaurs. Then it would be safe for the people. They woke up early the next morning. Mama had breakfast ready and gently shook each of her children and said, "It's time to get up." She did this every morning. After breakfast, they rolled a stone away from the entrance and crawled out into the sunlight. It was a beautiful day. There was a stream near the entrance of their village that had lots of fish in it. The men decided that because they may be gone for several days, they had better catch some fish for the rest of the family before they left. They couldn't catch anything close that morning, so they moved downstream. Pretty soon they were catching lots of fish, but they were a long ways from the village by now. Ruga's daddy finally said, "I think we better take these that we have back to our home and get on with the hunt." So they gathered up their fish and were almost home when they heard "Roar!" A Tyrannosaurus Rex was running toward them. Everyone dropped their fish and ran for the cave, but Ruga, he took one of his fish and threw it just as hard as he could, and it hit that Tyrannosaurus Rex right in the eye. It stopped, rubbed its eye, and roar! started running again. Well, by that time, everyone, including Ruga, was inside the cave. That Tyrannosaurus Rex didn't give up, though. He jumped on the hole where they had gone in several times. Finally, he went away. Well, inside that cave, the people were really frightened because some of the rocks had fallen from the ceiling of their cave. The next day, Father said, "We have got to go hunting. We've got to get something to eat. We'll just have to be more careful." Apparently, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was so mad he forgot about the fish because they were still all there. Well, after everyone had eaten all they wanted, the rest was cooked to take on the hunt on the next day. For the rest of the day, Ruga and the other children played with their toys or games in the rocks. Night was coming on, and as Ruga was hitting two rocks together, a blue spark came out of one of them. His mother said, "That was pretty. Can you do it again?" So he hit them harder. When he did, a beautiful blue light lit up the whole village, and a little chip off the rock flew into Ruga's mouth, and before he knew it, he swallowed it. He didn't have a shirt on, and he could see a blue light right through his skin in his tummy. Then it went out. His cousin said, "That was really neat, Ruga. You had a blue tummy." His tummy felt funny, but didn't hurt, and he wasn't sick. It just felt different. After supper, Father told everyone that they should go to sleep early so that they would be ready for the hunt tomorrow. Mama said, "Don't you think Ruga should stay home? It's pretty dangerous out there." Daddy said, "Of course not. He is the bravest of us all. He stopped that Tyrannosaurus Rex long enough for us all to get home safe. He'll be okay." The next morning, Mama got up and fixed breakfast and started waking the children. When she came to Ruga, she was so surprised she yelled, "Ruga! Ruga!" Ruga was so startled he jumped up and hit his head on the ceiling of their little cave. "What's the matter, Mama?" He wasn't used to his mother yelling like that. "Ruga, you're so big. What happened?" He looked at himself. He sure was big. He came out of their little cave and stood up. He was 7 feet tall. He was almost 2 feet taller than anyone in their village. His mother said, "You'd better crawl outside while you still can get out." It was a good thing he crawled out then, because he could just barely get through the hole. He was so hungry, his mom had to give him 3 big helpings of breakfast. Everyone was so surprised at his size. He said, "That blue light in my tummy last night, it must have made me grow." "It's getting late, though. I think we better get on with the hunt." Mama said, "Yes, winter is coming, and we don't have enough food." She also said, "Ruga, you'll have to sleep in a big tree tonight. You're too big to come back into the village." By noon, the hunters had not been able to get anything, so they stopped to eat some of the fish they had brought. Ruga now was 10 feet tall as a basketball basket. They had just started to eat when 4 deer jumped out of the brush and started to run. Quick as a flash, Ruga was up and after them. He ran so fast he caught them all and brought them back. Everyone cheered. Now they would have food. They took the deer and started home. Before they had gone far, they heard the brush crackling behind them and the bear. Ruga said, "Get behind that big rock over there, and I'll get the Tyrannosaurus Rex away from here." He threw a rock and hit him, then started to run. The big animal ran after Ruga and left the others. He ran up a steep mountain with the Tyrannosaurus Rex close behind him. Pretty soon, Ruga thought, "I wonder if I can push a big rock down on him." So he pushed and he pushed. The big guy was getting closer and closer. One last big push, and the huge rock rolled down the mountain right on top of that beast. The other hunters had watched it all. They cheered and came up, and they all cut it up so they could take it home. Ruga was so hungry, he ate almost one half of a leg by himself. The rest of the family hunters ate their fill, and then they started for home. By now, Ruga was 15 feet tall and carried most of the meat by himself. Nighttime found them still quite a ways from home, so they found a safe place for the family hunters, and they prepared to spend the night. Ruga was so hungry, he ate a whole leg of that Tyrannosaurus Rex by himself. After supper, he climbed a huge tree, fixed himself a place to lay, and everyone else went into a cave for the night. The next morning, after breakfast, Ruga's father said, "You sure grew a lot last night." He was now 23 feet tall. That's as tall as most of our houses. By now, Ruga had to whisper when he talked, so he wouldn't hurt everyone's ears. As they were going home, Ruga was thinking, "I'm eating so much, there won't be anything left for my family. I had better go away by myself." They were close to home now, and could see the women and children out fishing in the stream. Ruga called out, "Hello, we're home!" It was so loud it frightened everyone, and they ran as fast as they could into their cave. It was a good thing they did, because just then 2 Tyrannosaurus Rexes came running around the large rocks above the cave. Wow! 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 Ruga dropped the meat he was carrying and pulled up a good-sized tree and ran towards the beasts. He swung that tree trunk around and around. Both animals were knocked head over heels and lay dead on the ground close to the cave. There was great rejoicing in the village that day, and they invited other villages to come and help them prepare all the meat for winter. Ruga told his family that he was going to go away. He felt real bad, and so did everyone else, but they knew it was for the best. He was now 27 feet tall. He reached down and touched his family one at a time and whispered, "I love you. Goodbye." And then he left. As the days and the months went by, he grew taller and bigger. As he grew, he had to eat more and more. Soon there was no dinosaurs left anywhere in the area, or any flying giant birds. He had eaten them all. By now, he was 840 feet tall. When he laid down, he was as long as 3 football fields. He roamed all over the world till there were no dinosaurs, saber-toothed tigers, or mastodons left anywhere for him to eat. By now, he was 1,640 feet tall, taller than the Empire State Building, and when he walked, the earth shook. He was in North America, along the upper area of a large river known as the Columbia River. There were a lot of moose and elk in this area, so he was able to get some food. About 100 miles south of where he was, there lived a thriving group of people called the Kupoltins. They had lived there, along this mighty Columbia, for longer than anyone could remember. There were hundreds of thousands of them. They were a very industrious people. They made their homes in steep cliffs and inside large rocks. They had invented ways to cut holes into these cliffs and large rocks, then hollow out large living areas and business areas. You see, they were very small people. The average man was only 9 inches tall, and the average woman was only 8 inches. Most of the animals around were larger than they were, so they had found this to be a safe place to live. They had invented a material to build large places to live, to protect themselves, even in places that didn't have natural cliffs or large rocks. It was a powder called paffer that they could mix with water, and another powder found in 3 special caves called javelin. With these 3 things, when they mixed them together, they set up hard like a rock. They could make their own large stone cities anywhere they wanted to. One day, the Kupultins were alarmed by a sound of what seemed to be thunder. But there were no clouds in the sky, and it seemed to be getting louder, and it was coming from the north. Soon the earth was starting to shake, and then they saw it. It was a huge giant of a man coming toward them. Before they could all get inside their homes, Ruga saw them running, and reached down and caught several and ate them. He was so hungry, he ate anything he could catch. He was even eating trees, he was so hungry. Soon, he found he could break open the huge stones and find lots of the little creatures inside. The leaders of the Kupultins met together. They had to do something fast. There was a young man named Jot that had just joined the leader group. He said, "I have an idea. This giant seems to like us, or he can't find anything else to eat. Let's have the women make clothes, and let's fill them with paffer and javelin. We could add a flavor of some kind so he would like it. After he ate a lot of these, he would get thirsty, and then he would drink a lot of water. The paffer and javelin would go hard inside of him, and he would die." Everyone thought that was a great idea, so they immediately set to work. In 3 days, they had several thousand of these paffer javelin men made. In the night, they put them in an area outside their town and made them look like they were people trying to get away. Early that next morning, Ruga woke up, and he was hungrier than he had ever been in his whole life. By now, he was 2,509 feet tall. That's almost half a mile. When he saw all these people, he thought, looks like I'll have a good breakfast this morning." He quickly scooped up as many of those paffer javelins in his giant hands as he could and gobbled them up. There were 3 giant handfuls of them. When he was done, he was really thirsty. So he went down to the mighty Columbia River and knelt down and almost drank it dry. But soon he didn't feel too good. So he laid down to take a nap. After he went to sleep, his stomach started to swell. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was as big as a small mountain. And then a strange thing happened. His whole body turned to stone, even his hair. It worked. Ruga the Sleeping Giant never woke up. He still lies there today, just outside a little town called Northport in Washington State in the United States of America. A petrified sleeping giant. The Kupultin people were so happy to be safe. There was great celebrations throughout all the land. Up and down the mighty Columbia River, bonfires burned and the people danced and honored the young man, Jot, who had saved them from this great giant. Everyone could have lived happily ever after if it hadn't been for another young man, Puli, and his friend Joe, who, late one fall day, got lost in a thick fog and found themselves in the valley of the mystic fern. But that is another story. So we'll have to quit for now.